So over the past few months, as I've turned into being a power user of Rome research, I've learned a few things about knowledge work. And while I've never formally introduced the idea, I thought I'd talk a little bit about three things in this video. First, what is knowledge work? Second, why we should care more about the tools we use to do knowledge work. And finally, what are the techniques that these tools use that make our knowledge work better? So let's dive right in. Firstly, what is knowledge work? The term knowledge worker was developed by Peter Drucker in his book, The Landmarks of Tomorrow. Drucker said that knowledge workers are high-level workers who apply theoretical and practical knowledge to develop products and services. So whether you're an academic, engineer, doctor, lawyer, manager, analyst, or an accountant, you really are a knowledge worker because your main job is to think for a living. And your main capital is your pool of knowledge that you acquire with experience and training. And the whole idea of knowledge work really got me thinking about how we can maximize our output and deliberately practice being better knowledge workers. I felt this especially when I read an article by David Burrell in which he said that you should learn like an athlete. And the basic idea was that athletes and musicians pursue their skills rigorously and deliberately. But we don't see the same in knowledge workers, or in the case of knowledge work, because, well, think about the time that you last read a book, but barely remembered any of the ideas after a month. Or that all these years we've learned a bunch of things, but if I were to really recall what I've learned, it would be a hard thing to do. And so one of the reasons I'm interested in this whole productivity and note-taking stuff is because I feel it's an investment in yourself and that it will pay off in the medium to the long term if we are serious enough about it. So with that said, let's move on to why tools matter as much as work does. I've been reading this rather old book, I guess it was released in 2017 or so, by Tiago Forte, called Design Your Work. On the other side, I've also been reading Andy Matuszczyk's Evergreen Notes, something that I've talked about in a bunch of my previous videos. And all the ideas in both these sources are like coming together and mixing so fluidly that I've started to realize that you really can design the way you do knowledge work. And the very first step in doing that is to choose your tools well. Andy Matuszczyk has this idea of computer-supported thinking. And the basis of that idea is that we should leverage what computers are best at and leverage what humans are best at. And really use the combination of these two to come up with new ideas, new thoughts, and to push our imaginations. So that's why I feel that using tools like Rome, Notion, Evernote, and using what each is best for that particular purpose is the first step in having this computer-supported thinking. So say if Rome is best for coming up with new insights and Notion is best for, let's say, project management and Evernote is best for just dumping stuff. So then you really want to have a workflow that will allow you to put stuff into Evernote that you find interesting, then use that for a project that you're working on in Notion. And then if you want to develop that idea more, you can just turn to Rome and have this idea generating serendipitous exercise whereby you have that idea just written down in Rome, which is hyperlinked to a bunch of other notes, and you embark on this journey of serendipity because you're just hyperlinking from one node to another, and just that idea is really, really awesome. So that's why I feel that having this tripod, that's what I think it is, of productivity and note-taking apps is really, really cool and extremely effective, especially for knowledge work. I read this somewhere that humans are best at finding complex patterns and computers are best at memory-related stuff. So you really want to outsource the whole task of keeping track of things to computers, but do the work of actually finding patterns yourself, because that's what matters most. And that's why I feel that as you use the tools that are shaped to design your thoughts, you will naturally come up with better thoughts because you are leveraging what technology is best for, and you're also leveraging what your strengths are best suited for. Finally, the third thing that I want to talk about is what principles do these tools leverage and why should we actually use them? And I think the only things that I want to talk about here are first, the principle of measurement, and second, the principle of accretion. Now, as a knowledge worker, it's super hard to measure your progress with a quantifiable metric. Is it the number of hours you spend at work, or the number of notes you write, or the number of connections you make between existing ideas? We really don't know. And having these tools and systems in place allows you to develop a concrete measurement system by which you can hold yourself accountable to. I remember reading this quote by Richard Feynman that said that the first principle is that you must not fool yourself. And you are the easiest person to fool. And so having your tools and systems set up allows you the opportunity to hold yourself accountable. And that's the first principle that these tools leverage, which is the principle of measurement. The second principle is the principle of accretion. And again, the basic idea is that knowledge work should develop and grow over a period of time. So you really don't want your work to just happen in bits and pieces of time, because that doesn't compound, grow, or give you those non-linear and expected returns. But with the right tools, systems, techniques, and all the other tips and tricks and hacks that all these productivity gurus talk about, I feel that you can really develop a body of work that accumulates, grows, and develops over a period of time. And I like to think of it in terms of how a black hole pulls in the gas around it and turns it into a glowing radiation. And that's just a beautiful thing to see. And in a similar way, I also feel that knowledge also accretes like the gas around a black hole, which is, your system of all these productivity workflows, tools, and tips and tricks. And by the way, Interstellar did a pretty believable job at showing how gases may actually get attracted to a black hole. So yeah, if you're a knowledge worker, the basic takeaway is that you should have your tools and systems set in place so that you can leverage the principles of doing better knowledge work and improving in your craft over a period of time. Thanks for watching.